All right. Welcome, everyone. It is April 19th, 2018. Welcome to another installment of MSP Webinars. I'm Steve Taylor, the host, and today we're joined by Paul Lupo from Bitdefender. And I'm excited. I'm hoping he's going to be able to give us some details on their Gravity Zone products, because I know that it does a whole lot more than just antivirus. And I'm also going to twist his arm and see if he'll show us kind of like a best practice policy configuration as well. So I'm just going to pass it right over to you, Paul. Feel free to introduce yourself and let us know what you do over there, and just kind of take it away. And real quick, if anyone has questions, please use the Q&A section. But if it's just general chat and banter, you can just use the chat section. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Paul.
All right. You can hear me okay?
You sound great.
All right, perfect. My name is Paul Lupo. I am the Senior SE for Service Providers at Bitdefender. Well, we have an enterprise group, and we have a service providers group, and I focus solely on the service providers. I do know some, but not enough to say I'm an expert in the enterprise side. So if we can keep our focus on the service provider side for you, then I'm going to be okay, and so are you. Today, we're going to present Gravity Zone Cloud Security for MSPs. I'm not a big fan of PowerPoint presentations or fluff as it is. I like to get into the product, show you the product, get you to ask me questions. But because there are a lot of things to go over, I'm going to go through a couple of things just to make sure that you're aware of something I might not have told you. For example, when you look at the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, we're consistently ranked by AV comparatives and AV tests in the top tier of anti-malware vendors. And so there is sometimes some disjointment between antivirus and anti-malware. So you might see multiple products rolled into an environment to do the same thing. We consider anything that shouldn't be on your network that's malicious anti-malware. So we use one product to combat all of it. Our Gravity Zone console is a web-based multi-tenant solution that allows you to keep your customers in networks segmented from each other. Also allows you to provide monthly billing, do policy control, deployments, all from a central location and much more. What we're doing in as far as an anti-malware, antivirus approach is we're taking multiple layers and from hardening and controlling to multi-stage detection and then action on something that is detected. This is how we're making sure that we can protect against more than just antiviruses, right? So we have application control, which is actually application blacklisting. We do content control, so we can do data leakage prevention there. We can do website filtering there, prevent phishing attacks, a bidirectional firewall, device control. All of these things I'm going to get into later in the presentation. On the multi-stage side, what we're doing in pre-execution is just looking at our database. Right? We want to see if we've already recognized something, and if we have, it's very easy for us to say, okay, this is good or bad. But we also have on execution our anti-exploit, which looks at behaviors, right? So we don't want to miss something just because it was a PDF file and looked okay. If there's something bad going on in the background, we want to make sure that we notice the behavior and take care of it there as well. And our process inspector is constantly looking at services, right? So processes. So just because our signatures and everything else said it was a really, the best file we've ever seen in our lives, our process inspector still operates on zero trust because we don't want to miss anything. So if something gets by all of our other stages, the process inspector is there as a backup to say, oh, no, you don't. And then lastly, with our action, we can block access, disinfect, move to quarantine, terminate processes, and then if something was infected, roll back to from the quarantine a previous version of it, et cetera. Gravity Zone, BEST, Bitdefender Endpoint Security Tools. We refer to it as BEST, and that will go through the rest of the presentation. All of these modules and some more that I couldn't fit in the slide are part of what we're doing. And, for example, Active Directory integration for inventory control. If you don't have an Active Directory, we do Windows Network Discovery to pick up the network. Over here, RMM and PSA integration. So if you already have an RMM and PSA in place, I'll show you later in the slides, we're working with a bunch of those vendors already so that you can get our information into it and spend as much time in one console as you want. We deploy to Windows, Mac, and Linux. We've got Exchange protection as an additional module. We've got full disk encryption as an additional module. The full disk encryption works with BitLocker on Windows and File Vault on Mac. It is hosted in our public cloud. We also have policies that are for roaming, location aware is what we're calling it, but they're basically roaming policies. All of this stuff and more we can go over during the presentation, or if you have questions, you can, how much of the disk encryption at the lowest band? I am a sales engineer. If there is a salesperson on the phone from Bitdefender with me, please answer that question. I did get that one question from Johnny Walker. I don't know if it's black, red, or blue, but Johnny, love that name. So I don't have myself pricing, and I don't know if there's anybody else here from Bitdefender. Steve, can you see if any of my colleagues joined?
I don't see any familiar names, but if they want to hit the raise hand button or put something in chat, I will gladly promote them to a panelist so that way they can help participate.
Okay, perfect. Meanwhile, I'm going to keep going with what I was doing, and hopefully, if we don't have anybody from Bitdefender on the phone with us that can talk pricing, if you can get Johnny Red's email address, we can get that returned to him, the response.
I can share that to him, yeah.
All right, perfect. So with the, as I was mentioning, we have a relay. It's an additional module that's built into our endpoint agent, and what it will do is a Windows Network Discovery and pull everything back into one console, right? So you can have multiple places all reporting back into the same console. So we're not going between one console and another just because you have multiple locations. All right, we have a question from Clay Eden. EDR additions. Is this an additional add-on? I see the tab in the Gravity Zone console. Yes, it is. It is part of the, I believe, Ultra Suite. And the Ultra Suite, while you can see the tab in the Gravity Zone MSP console right now, has not been exposed to the monthly billing yet. And once that's been integrated with the monthly billing, it will be completely available to you. And I believe that is supposed to happen before the end of this half of the year. I can get more information for you as we get closer. All right, looks like we got a few more people. Nope, that's in that. Okay, perfect. So you can, as I was saying, you get multiple locations reporting back into the same console, so you're not switching between consoles to get to different customers, etc. And in our distribution model, right? So we can provide you with reservations. Let's say you have over here, MSP1 has 400 seats. They'll give customer 1 100, customer 2 100, and customer 3 100, and they have an additional 100 seats left over. The reservation is used so that we're going to bill the distributor. The distributor is going to bill you. You're going to bill your end user. But if you don't put a reservation on the number of licenses that any one of these entities have, then let's say customer 1 tells you that they have 100 licenses, but they deploy 150. You're going to receive a bill for 150. Putting the reservation in place allows us to limit the amount of licenses that each person can install, preventing you from getting, oh, I see, never mind, that's you, Steve. preventing someone else from overusing licenses and then you getting an unsuspected bill. Introduced also in very recently is our security for virtualized environments central scanning. So what this actually does is we put a hardened virtual machine inside the virtual environment, and we offload the scanning from the virtual machines to our security server. This has been available for a long time on our enterprise side, and we finally had it ported over to our monthly billing side. So now if you have customers with virtual environments, we're able to put a security server in the environment, taking the resource, stop taxing the resources on the virtual machines, giving them back to production. What that would look like in the old days, you would put a scanning agent on all your systems and have to leave a big resource pool up here for antivirus to scan and update. With a security server in place, that resources goes back to the hardware, and you can start to deploy more virtual machines without having to pick up more hardware. And as I mentioned, we do integrate with a bunch of RMMs and PSAs already, and this is a handful of the ones that we are currently working with. And that is the end of my PowerPoint presentation. All right, so now we'll get into the guts of it, right? This is my live lab. I'm only showing it to you so you can see the sort of data that you can collect and the amounts of data that you can collect in here. I'm not going to make any changes in here because, you know, you're fool once, right? After that, you learn from your mistakes. What I will show you now is in my test environment. Oops. I can make any of the changes I want, and it's not going to be any hassles. I won't interrupt anybody's days. All right, so here's the EDR piece you were talking about up here on top. And as I mentioned, yes, the ribbon is there right now, but you'll notice that I can't get any information there because it hasn't been fully integrated yet. But once it is, we'll be good there. So the Gravity Zone console itself, in my opinion, what you're doing is you're taking away the need to start your day running 2 or 3 hours of reports and then trying to figure out what information was available, and then so you can start your day. So you can see at a quick glance the things that are important to you and where you might need to go to start investigating what's going on from a security posture on the network now. And how that information actually gets into the dashboard is pretty simple. So once you have your MSP console, you then add your companies. And you can see here, I have an API generated company 1 and API generated company 2. So you don't even have to do it by hand. If you have a web dev person on staff that wants to build something into your own portal and use our web API to integrate in, you can do that from your own web portal. If not, you can do it right here from our console. And if you're using ConnectWise Manage, we can use the ConnectWise Manage information right now. We can push out ticket information, billing information, using your credentials for ConnectWise Manage. And before the second half of this year, we're going to have ConnectWise Automate as well, so that we can do a push button install from Automate to push our installs to your inventory there. We're also working on. I'm glad
you mentioned that, Paul. What about if someone wants to use, let's call it a better solution like Autotask or Kaseya or anything?
I was actually going there, right? So Amazon Web Services, your EC2 instances, we can pull those in there. Your Kaseya right now, we're about finished with our integration. So we used to have a plugin for ConnectWise Lab Tech. We used to have a plugin for Kaseya, but both of them were very limited in what they did. So we've scrapped them, and we're started because we have our APIs exposed, and because, for example, Kaseya 9.5 is coming out with web API integration, all that stuff, all that really good stuff. We're doing the integration directly now. So we're taking our web APIs and talking to their web APIs. What that is going to allow us to do in the first rollout is pull the inventory into Gravity Zone and do deployments. Version 2 of that is going to also allow you to do a synchronization. So the next time you run the utility, it doesn't duplicate entries, right? So there's some phase 1, phase 2 stuff going on, but all of that's going to be in there. Our auto task integration is a little bit different, right? So auto task doesn't push any particular vendors, right? What they want you to do is use their services. We've supplied them with all of the necessary registry entries, et cetera, so that they can recognize when we're already installed and start doing some event correlation based on events that happen on it. So if you're an Autotask customer already, okay, Andy, okay, there you go, Al Maggio. There's my outside, my enterprise. Well, what do you want to call it?
I was just going to bring that up, and I see Al says it's in beta already for Kaseya.
Yeah.
Now, Andy wants to know if you are going to improve the ticket information that's generated for ConnectWise, because right now it's limited and not very helpful. And a couple of other guys mentioned that a lot of times duplicates are getting created, even though they feel like they've told the software not to do that.
Okay, so the question is for me then is, are you using the plugin? Because if you're using the plugin, that's going away, right? We are managing it from an integration standpoint. It's not going to be a plugin. The problem with the plugin is if we make a change, we have to recode everything. If they make a change, everybody has to recode everything. So you have to start basically from scratch all over again, right? So we're taking a different, okay, ConnectWise minutes, direct integration, no plugin. Okay. So Andy, yes, we are working on that as we speak. I do not have an ETA for you right now, but all of those things that you're talking about right now, we've had months worth of scoping conversations to make sure that we don't make that mistake again. Make sense? Okay, perfect. Cool. All right, so go ahead.
All I said was cool. I think there's a delay
cool.
with the telephone, unfortunately.
Perfect. That's all right. So anyways, so those are different ways to create your network inventory, right? So if we have a company that's got Active Directory, we can come in and pull in Active Directory, and the Active Directory integrator is right here. It will mimic what's going on in your Active Directory. So we'll pull in your computers, we'll pull in your servers, etc. If you're not using Active Directory, everything will be here under computers and groups, and that's picked up with a Windows Network Discovery, picking up all the available IP addresses. You can then create your own groups and drag and drop your computers into whatever groups you want if you're not using an inventory import or an Active Directory import. It allows you to get a little more granular with how things are going. You want your servers in one, and then you can create a policy, put it on that. So that's the other piece, right? Once you have your inventory, you can assign policy at any level of it, so you don't have everything running off the same policy.
So real quick, one of the things I've heard people complaining about regarding Bitdefender with everything I'm looking at right here. So devices, we're not able to drag and drop a device from one company to another, are we?
No, you're never going to be able to.
Never going to be able to.
So when you create a package, that package is chosen for a specific company, right?
Okay.
That package is going to contain all the modules, et cetera, for that company. It's going to hook back into a relay at that company. And all of these things are contained to the company on purpose. Inside of a company, if you're inside a company, you can drag and drop between the groups of folders all day long. But you don't want to accidentally expose someone else's company to someone else because you were able to drag and drop a computer from one folder to another.
Okay.
We've heard it many times, and if that's the case, we have another possible solution, but it's not recommended. You, instead of going in and creating yourself as an MSP, create yourself as an end user. Then everybody's in folders, and then you can drag your end users around in folders all day long. But you risk the exposure of one company to another company. You can't contain them. That's why we don't recommend it.
Got it. So for clarity's sake, Johnny asked, a distinct installer needs to be created for each client. We can't use a generic installer to deploy Bitdefender out.
Correct.
Okay.
All of those things come back into the reporting, into the policies, into the dashboard, into the network. They're all connected. And if you start moving them around, you lose that visibility, and you'd spend your entire day trying to figure out what came from where.
Okay. I appreciate that clarification.
Now, we get it a lot. And so I've got a question here from Clay. Go under policies. All right. See, there's Al. Never say never. There's discussion ongoing right now.
Of course.
All right. Right. So I love Al. All right. So in the policy settings, when you go to the firewall, right? So let's see. In the firewall, why are there default rules to block network printing? I don't see a good way to turn this stuff off. Allow. Now, I understand what you're saying. I've seen it where people have deployed it and the network printing is turned off. I don't know. I've asked the question to our product managers and our engineers, and that's just the way they built it. And we can't put in a feature request to come in and say, okay, well, can we change that? I don't mind doing that on your behalf, but that's the way they built it. That's the way they want us to use it. I don't have another answer for that.
So real quick, so I see Windows Explorer traffic on FTP, HTTP, sending emails. I mean, so all of this stuff you can actually have allowed or blocked with the firewall rule.
Right. And if you don't see what you need in there, we have application or connection control as well. So if you have an application where maybe you had something proprietary created and we're not aware of it, but you need it to get through the firewall, we'll allow you to add it so that you can make your own rule based on those applications.
Now, can you show me what you did that blew Clay's mind, how easily you changed that network printing one?
Over here on the right-hand side, under the permissions, you just click on it.
So it's a mysterious drop down. We don't actually know it's a drop down.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's exactly correct.
What happened.
Yeah. So if you click on it on the permission itself, it'll allow you to change it. So unfortunately, like these ones, it's not surrounded by a box with a drop down arrow. It is a little misleading, and we can, again, certainly put in the request that says, can you make that a little more visible?
Then does it make sense to just simply delete network printing from this list?
I don't think you can. It's one of the defaults.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't.
Okay.
All right. So over here on the left, there's for Johnny Walker again, there's another company. There is another company allows this to pull client info from pseudo provisioning server. Is that a statement or a question?
It looks more like a statement. I think he's just trying to compare Bitdefender with some other antivirus company. And I'll be honest, he's probably comparing it to like a WebRoot or a Sophos or one of those alternative tools.
I know who the competitors are. But we've seen that in the past. And this is, when you look at some of the other guys, they've been in the game a little bit longer, so they've been able to develop things a little further. We're taking the best security in the industry and porting it over to be managed from the service provider side. And we're going as we go. We're taking all the additional information like that particular point, and we're providing it back to product management. We're providing it back to development. What we're doing out of the gate is making sure you can get the best protection. Then we're working on everything else after that. Cliff, one install.
Sorry, I think it's safe to say your your product ratings for the security from the independent testing companies kind of help speak for itself. I mean, you may have to deploy it differently as a managed service provider, but I think the security is worth it.
I tend to agree. You want really good security, you want really good integration. It's kind of a balancing act, right? If you get the best integration, it doesn't necessarily mean the best security. If you get the best security, it doesn't necessarily mean the best integration. So we got to meet somewhere in the middle without losing security. All right. So
and if it's all right, I'll read the questions out for you. Make it a little easier, because there's going to be people that watch this later and they won't necessarily know what the question was. So we'll skip that. That's not a question. Maybe a modification to show you can modify that permission tab. I think you mentioned that you'll submit that. Clay asked about getting a better official script from Bitdefender for LabTech or ConnectWise Automate. They built one in the community. They've been cracking open the exe installer and dropping in the XML file.
Right. So the XML file is going to contain all the hooks back into where it goes. Clay, I'm going to say no, because we are doing the integration, which is going to allow you to have the push button install from within ConnectWise, right? So inside, LabTech. So I don't see them going back into older stuff to redo it when the goal is to allow you to do it from within LabTech/ConnectWise Automate. That make sense?
I think it does.
Okay. Then we got Johnny back. Tracks back to the previous questions about the generic installer. Okay. For the sake of, not going in a circle continuously, it is built the way it was previously, and we are redoing it. So I can't really answer any of those questions about what used to be, because I can't guarantee you it's going to be the same once the finished product comes out. That make sense? I would love to say, yes, do this, 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 and this, but I don't know what the final product is going to be once they finish the integration.
Gotcha.
My question is moot. Right, exactly. That's kind of what I was trying to get at without actually just saying that. Right. So yes, the ConnectWise Automate integration is going to allow you to do the deployment from within ConnectWise Automate. And then with the manage integration as well, we're going to be able to push the tickets over as well, which kind of goes back to the earlier question about better ticket information. We're working on all that as we go for the next for the integration release. So plugins, previous integration, I can't really stick with those, because once everything is wrapped up and released, it could be completely different than what I tell you. And if I'm telling you one thing I'm recording right now, and you're listening to it in a month or two when we release the product, and you go, that's not what Paul said.
Yeah, we do want to avoid the that's what Paul said.
All right. So that being said, let's get back to what we're doing, right? So we're adding companies where you're creating them as a customer. If they're in a trial mode, they'll get a 30-day trial. Monthly subscription will pull from the your monthly allotment of reserved seats. Anything under here is an additional cost, right? So exchange, encryption, and central scanning is an additional line item. So if you don't want to turn those on and start billing your customers, then don't make sure that these checkboxes are not selected. You can add an account at this time. This account needs to be a unique email address. We can only use an email address once in our system. What that is going to allow you to do is send an invitation to your customer telling them to log in with these credentials. If you want to manage that yourself, do not create the account at this time. Save your company, create the account separate. And what you can do is, if you have your own internal email address at that company, or you just want to use a fake email address to get to where you can create a username yourself, perfect. Do that here. Then when you log in, you'll have the control. The end user themselves will not receive an email welcoming them to Gravity Zone.
So, real quick, you said that when adding the account, they need to have a unique email address. So,
correct.
If I'm understanding this correctly, let's say one of Johnny Walker's clients fires him and comes and becomes my client. If he doesn't delete them out of his Gravity Zone, I can't add them.
And that's a whole nother can of worms. So I don't want to upset Johnny Walker, but if the customer is moving to a new partner, underneath our inside their Gravity Zone, right? So here's my company ID. Mm-hmm. I provide this company ID to my brand new customer that left someone else. They click change partner. They add that here, click save. That migrates it over to your console.
But what if Johnny doesn't like the fact that they fired him for me? He doesn't want to give me that.
No. You give them that. Because they're going away from partner one and going to partner two. So partner two supplies this.
Oh, he doesn't want to do that either. Let's just assume Johnny's a terrible person, okay?
No. So here's the thing. So one customer going to a new partner, the new partner supplies their ID. The old partner is completely oblivious to this going on in the background. They've been fired. They don't have any control over stopping someone from leaving, right? So the new partner supplies this ID. This, instead of company here, you should say my whatever. But the original partner right here is still going to say old partner. You're going to change that, put in the new partner's partner ID, click save. That will then change this to the new partner's partner ID, and this name here will be the new partner's ID name as well. It all happens in the background. There's nothing that partner one needs to do. Old partner doesn't have to allow anything. It's all at the end user side with the new partner's information. So I fire partner one. I'm going to partner two. I say partner two, oh, you already are a Bitdefender managed service provider? Great. Send me your company ID. I want to move my console under your console. And this is where it's done, right here.
I like it.
And I like Johnny saying over here, this is cleaner than how Sophos does it.
He said it, not you, right? You were just repeating.
I'll put it on the screen if you want to see it.
Now, to follow up to this, my understanding is we also could not have I couldn't have a policy called policy because someone else may have a policy named that already somewhere else in Bitdefender land. And the same with the customer name. I can't have a customer called Acme because you may already have another partner that has one named Acme. Is that accurate?
If you're a partner and you have two customers with the same name, no. But Bitdefender itself, the only thing that's going to limit you to is a unique email address, right? So if you have a company Acme, if someone else has a company Acme, it should not affect you being able to add it to your own console. Policies are the same thing. So we're adding the policy at the company level or at the highest level, and we're assigning it to the company level. Default policy 4,849 is because someone's left default policy as a name 4,849 times. We're going to append to it, so you can keep going and going and going. But I tend to name my policies what they're for. So this is for the PML company's workstations. This is for the PML company's servers. This is for the PML company's secure virtual appliances. This is for my AWS instances. So everything that I do from a usability standpoint, I use it to remind me of what I created it for. I don't want to go back at a policy and say, geez, I forget what that's for. And you can see over here, because I'm the partner, I can see that I created this one. I can see that this company created that one. This company created that one, et cetera. Now, what you cannot do, if I did not create all of these policies, I cannot edit them. I cannot change them. I can only edit the ones that I created. So for your customers, for example, when you roll out a policy to them, if you're enforcing policy for them, they're not going to be able to change the policy that you created because they're paying you to manage that from your console. So they're not going to be able to go in and say, okay, well, I really don't like what Paul did here. Let me go and turn off anti-malware and turn off threat control and save it. You see right down here, cannot save this policy because it belongs to another company. So I'm not, as the end user, going to get myself into trouble because I didn't like the way you created my security policy. I have to then ask you to make a change, and you can try to talk me out of why it shouldn't be done that way.
Interesting. Okay. So then maybe I misunderstood what they were saying when they were telling me about their issues with duplicate names. So now, how does Gravity Zone? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was looking at the questions, right?
Oh, and that's what I'm going through next. How does
perfect.
Gravity Zone differ from getting Bitdefender through one of your IT channel partners like SolarWinds?
So SolarWinds, they are an OEM vendor, right? So unlike Kaseya or ConnectWise, who are going to be reselling our product, SolarWinds actually takes our engine and wraps their own wrapper around it. So they take bits and pieces of what we do and make it their own. For example, N-Central's AV Defender. So AV Defender will give you anti-malware, advanced threat control, might even have encryption. What I don't think they're going to have, and Al, I know you're on the line, correct me if I'm wrong, they're not going to, and again, I'm not going to say never because, when contracts come up, they get renewed and negotiation happens again. But right now, I don't think they have full disk encryption. I don't think they have the secure virtual appliances. There's a few more things in there that we're doing on the Gravity Zone side that the SolarWinds side isn't yet. And every year at contract renewal, they will get a little more. But when it comes out for us, we get it right away. They have to wait till the next contract negotiation. So we're always going to have some separation of features or policies or et cetera, because that comes once a year from them, and it comes around on release time for us.
Excellent. Let's see here.
So I saw the anonymous one up there, right? All right. So
I figured we could go over that one in a little bit.
Al just confirmed, yes, full disk encryption is not there yet, neither is SVE, but we do love them. Absolutely. So the anonymous question there is, who do we contact to get an account set up as the MSP? I'm going to let Al or whoever else in the sales team address that one. I mean, you can go on our website and request it, but if you don't specifically say working with Al or one of the salespeople, it might get just thrown into all the other leads that go through enterprise and all this other stuff. We focus on the MSPs, so when you get in touch with us and we tell you to do it, one of our salespeople say, "Hey, put my name in there," so he knows how to get to him.
Gotcha.
Al.
Yeah, I added Al as a panelist, so if he wants to enable microphone on his end, he's always welcome to pop in and say a couple words. I know, Al, we've got quite a few people that have questions on pricing. Just, what's your MSRP pricing for a lot of this stuff?
Are you hearing me properly?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. It's a tiered pricing approach. It really depends on the levels that you're coming in at. Giving you an example, at 1,000 endpoints for the full product, the cloud security for MSPs, it would be $1 per unit per month. It goes down as you go up, and it goes up as you go down. Meaning at 100 units, you're going to pay us $1.30.
Okay.
20,000 units is a great price. I can't reveal that openly over the phone.
I understand.
But we're very competitively positioned against WebRoot, Sophos. We're less costly. ESET, we're less costly, etc.
Now, so you said it's approximately $1.30 for 100 units.
Correct.
Is there a minimum?
Unfortunately, no. We allow you to come in at 1, 2, 3.
That doesn't sound unfortunate to me.
Well, you have to respect this. We're talking about aggregate to the MSP. If an MSP has 500 clients each with 1 unit, that MSP is going to get billed at the 500 unit level. Okay,
Right.
we aggregate your usage. Okay.
Yeah, no, I what I'm thinking is, for the guy that just wants to test it out on internally, and then maybe even test it out on a few end users that agree to be the guinea pig, or however people want to test this thing
We
out.
won't allow that. We give a trial away at no cost.
Okay.
We will allow it.
That's unlimited installs too. So
with for no cost, and many of our clients will exactly do that and take a client and put 10 units, 50 units. I think we allow up to 100 units now.
somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah. And the beauty of it is, once you test it, you'll most likely enjoy it, and you want to go live with it. What you've deployed, the investment you've made, having your client deploy it, you go live just by simply putting in a license key into your console, you the MSP, and that's it. There are no license keys for your end users. We assign a pool of licenses to each MSP. So
Okay.
you may start, and that's basically according to your credit, and that's what it really comes down to.
And I just want to clarify a couple of things. You mentioned the 100 unit price. Is that the same price for 50 units? Like, I don't know how your tiers are broken down.
1 to 100, 100 to 500, 500 to 1,000, 1,000 to 5,000, 5,000 and over. We have pricing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so for the people that are in the 1 to 100,
$1.75.
Okay, so we're under a couple bucks.
Yes.
Excellent. And then you mentioned that this is the full-blown license. So does that mean it includes the website content filtering, the encryption?
Okay. No.
What attitude you get? Okay. Yeah.
So these three on the bottom here, exchange protection, encryption, and the EDR sensor, when that's available, are an additional cost. Everything above here, so your anti-malware from all your security servers, your content control, traffic filtering, web filtering, data protection, application, device control, that's all included in that cost. This is an additional cost.
Now, Paul did skip over the sandbox analyzer because it was not available yet.
Yeah, that guy right there. He's also coming at the end. And I think that's coming beginning of the second half of this year.
Soon.
Yeah.
Soon.
So yeah, we didn't actually get into all this stuff yet, but your questions are more important and I want to answer them. It sounds like you got a good audience here that knows a little bit about us. So that's very impressive to me. So I don't have to go through everything, and I like answering their questions. This is good for me. I see some more there. One from Johnny Walker again. Are we getting into the firewall hardware space, Al?
Muted. I unmuted. To my knowledge, no, we're not going to be a hardware manufacturer.
Yeah. Is this month to month, the pricing?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no
not even an annual contract. No, sir. That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we're easy to work with in that respect. We like to think we're going to be year to year with you, and it has been that way. But yes, It is month to month. And by the way, our fulfillment is done through distributors. Okay. So the pricing I'm quoting you is your price from a distributor of ours. We have some boutique distributors. Ingram just came on board with us, but not yet with the month-to-month program.
Okay.
But these guys are also level 1, level 2 support. So you'll get it from Bitdefender, our support group, and them. So I think it works to the advantage of all of our end user, or rather our MSPs.
Very cool. And so we're not buying direct from you. We're always going to buy from a distributor.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right. So
We'll do everything with you to get it going. Believe me, Paul, myself, my team are here to make it happen for you all. But yes, we do fulfillment through distribution.
And Sean wants to know who the other distributors are.
Our distributors are Direct to Channel out of California, Contronics out of Fort Myers, Florida, Lifeboat out of New Jersey, and we have IT Cloud out of Canada. And then we have a nationwide group, and every country has their own distributor should you be dealing from a foreign country. I don't know if this
Cool.
Right. So to answer Johnny's question there again, can we bypass Ingram support? I don't know that they're doing the monthly billing right now. And,
They are not.
Right. So you'd be working with one of our other distributors who would give you support, or with our support team directly.
And that is exactly why we work through these boutique distributors. They had to go through a certification program with us. They had to be able to provide level 1 and level 2 support. Most of them are supporting well in excess of 50,000 endpoints today, and doing a great job of it, supporting with us and selling them with us and whatnot.
And then we see, Alan, your question's been up there for a little while about Autotask. So our Autotask, unlike some of our other partners, didn't actually do any integration with us, right? So what they did is they took our registry keys, our folders, learned a little bit about what events we were making in event logs, security log, etc. And they're building their own collectors inside Autotask to make sure they can identify that we're installed and that they can identify when the events happened. Now, I don't know what the future of it is right now, where the merge with the data, with Datto, because I was actually the ones working with Autotask on this, supplying that information to them, but I haven't heard with them since that whole merger thing started happening. I have reached out to them, and I'm still waiting to hear back. But it's not a typical integration like with ConnectWise and Kaseya. It is something they're doing completely on their own because they need to, in their ecosystem, remain agnostic to the vendors. So they're not going to do integration with anybody. They're just going to look for the stuff that they can pick up and alert you on.
Yeah, Paul, I'm attending the Data Autotest conference in, I believe it's June. June, July. I'm sorry, I've forgotten, but I know it's coming up. It's in Austin, Texas. Yep. I'm attending that along with a couple of others. We have a booth there. And what we've done with Autotask in the past is they actually captured some data using our APIs to populate their console. And that they did without our, you were involved a little bit with that, I think, Paul. And then we are also in the process, we have one of our lead architects working with me on a project to get a method quickly in place to deploy Autotask automatically, basically. We're leveraging what we've developed already for Kaseya and ConnectWise. ConnectWise is being released like within 30 days or less. I think it is in beta as we speak. So is the Kaseya, I might add. And we've started from the ground up with this because what we did previously, what's the right word? Sucked. I think everybody understands it. We didn't do a good job. Yes, it will be replacing, and I don't recall who it was. Let's see, Andy, I believe, asked about ConnectWise Manage integration. That will be replaced as well, Andy. That was something that was an afterthought. We did it. Sometimes we did things to be quick to market. This time we took a step back. We've spent a lot of time, for example, I know I was on the phone with Kirk Feathers over at Kaseya, one of their senior VPs, and he went through with us what our deployment was for Kaseya, and it was like, wow, you guys covered everything, and we did. We really did. Very thoroughly gone through. Phase 2, due out, what is it, Paul? I don't know, Q3, Paul? Is that end of Q2? I'm not sure. It's right around the corner.
It's the upcoming months. I know that.
Yeah.
It's going to be sometime mid-year.
Yeah, and that's going to have more integration with their console and populating their console, and also synchronizing with existing Bitdefender Kaseya deployments. In other words, someone's already deployed Bitdefender and they want to integrate it with Kaseya. That can be a challenge. We're doing that.
Right. So let's get up to another question here. Greg, SW, I'm assuming you mean SolarWinds, right? How can we see the integration with SW? I don't have a SolarWinds account. It is an OEM relationship. It is not an MSP relationship. We give it to them. They put it in their product and they sell that to their customers.
The SolarWinds product is pretty much my understanding. It's only available when you get it along with N-Central, or
correct.
I think they call it MSP RMM, which is their what used to be Max Focus, Max RMM.
Right. You're absolutely correct. It's not something we sell. We gave them, it's an OEM agreement. So they took our technology and built something around it. So I don't sell it. I don't support it. I don't show it. It's not something that I can show you. And Johnny looks like a statement, and Clay Eden also looks like a statement. Well, we do sell the MSP product through Lifeboat, and their support usually, if they can't handle it, ends up coming to me for support. So even if you went through Lifeboat, you might be getting support from me anyway. And Greg, so yes, there is a separate cost for branding. So, I guess that really, let me take a step back. So if you're talking about actually branding, putting a white label solution together that doesn't show Bitdefender anyway, yeah, we have a technology licensing team out of Santa Clara, California that would work with you on that, but there is an upfront commitment. If you don't care about stuff like that and you just want to change this to your website, this to your email address, this to your phone number, so that when someone opens up the Bitdefender about here, it shows your information here. We can do that right from the console at no extra cost. If you're talking about having your logos on stuff, when you create the company, you have the option to put a logo in here. And when you create the logo, when you log in, it'll be up here and it'll have your logo in there. Any reports that you generate will also have your logo branded in there as well. So there's some free branding. I'm putting, you can't see me, there's quotation marks around it. It's not white labeling. It's not, OEM. It's not technology license. And what we understand, sometimes you want to make sure the end user knows that you're not just only dealing with Bitdefender, they're dealing with you. So you can do those types of logo impressions, I guess we'll call them, as well as, again, the support information linking back to you here by just making the changes in our console. All right, and Alan, follow up. Does this mean I have to manage it from two consoles? If you're using Autotask, yes, because there's no management from Autotask. Everything is done in our console, and then at the Autotask side, they're just looking for the events that we've pushed. All right, Sean, could we use this solution with the SolarWinds MSP and see the updates? No, because they are different solutions. You have to use the SolarWinds enable AV Defender. This will not connect to that. Theirs will not connect to ours. If I purchase license from BD directly distributor, do you know if N-Central will still be able to monitor? Is there integration? No, it is completely different product.
So we don't, just to clarify, do we happen to know definitively if N-Central can simply monitor and say, yes, this third party not provided by us antivirus is running, it's up to date, that type of stuff?
As far as I know, no, because we've given them the, I'd need to talk to my technology licensing team, because I have no direct interaction with N-Central enable SolarWinds. I don't talk to them at all. I would have to get that information on if Bitdefender is installed and we're using the RMM solution. Can we at least see that Bitdefender is installed? I don't know the answer. What I do know is if you would.
I believe that the answer is yes. The reporting will probably not work very well, if at all, but I believe it'll at least be able to report on the fact that Bitdefender is installed, and it may even be able to report on what like virus definitions or whatever version is installed. But it's not going to be so integrated that you're going to see it caught a virus. What do you do? Do you want to delete it or quarantine it or anything like that? So if you're using Bitdefender Gravity Zone and you're using N-Central or basically any RMM, and they don't have a direct integration, then it's probably not going to be very helpful. You're going to have to manage things out of two different consoles, but something tells me, just based on past experience with using every RMM tool in the world, it'll at least tell you that it's installed, that it's an antivirus program, and if it's running, and most of the time if it's up to date. So I hope that helps.
And the reason for that is they wanted to include our solution as one of their own. So that's why they have an OEM relationship with us, right? So all those additional features, functionality, reporting, they wanted to use an AV Defender. It was another vendor prior to us, and about 5 or 6 years ago, but it's Bitdefender now. So I see Sean. I see you do see the Bitdefender endpoint security in there. We're still making entries, right? We're still talking to the event logger, security logger. You still know it's installed, so the registry keys are there. So I have to assume that when they go looking for antivirus, they just go looking for antivirus and then pick up whatever's installed. Beyond that, if you want to do policy control, if you want to do management, if you want to do all that other stuff, you have to do it from Gravity Zone, unless you use the N-Central AV Defender, which again is a completely separate product. And I just want to say real quick, in the chat side over there, I see from Jord that he says this is the best webinar. Thank you. All right. So real quick, up on the top of the hour.
Yeah, before we get derailed too much by more questions, I just want to see. Okay, so let's talk real quick about all the different things we can do with Gravity Zone. So I know it is able to do antivirus, anti-malware, website content filtering. It's able to be a firewall. Talk to me about some of this other stuff.
Okay, so let's go from the anti-malware down. So when you talk about what we're doing from an anti-malware perspective, we've got multiple layers. I showed you in the presentation earlier what we're doing, right? So on-access scanning, on-demand scanning, HyperDetect. HyperDetect is about to become available. What HyperDetect is, so we have 7 different patents on machine learning and artificial intelligence that go back almost a decade now. So when people start talking next gen, new gen, and AV, we've been doing this all along, right? And it's built into our solutions. So there's a local sandbox analyzer called Behave, and it takes small portions of files and it detonates them locally to make sure that they're safe, and it puts a little marker on it saying great. The other thing we have, and again, sandbox analyzer is coming further down the line. If there's a larger file that you need detonated from beginning to end, you'd be able to submit that to us. We'll put it up in the compute cloud, spit back the results, let you know what happened. Now, back to HyperDetect. So this is tunable machine learning. So what we're doing now is it's in normal mode. We're keeping the false positives low, but we're still detecting all the stuff that's really bad. If you think you're targeted and the target attack is coming out, bump this thing up to aggressive. You're going to get a lot of false positives, but you're also going to block everything that's coming through. Look at everything that's going through, and then you can start to fine tune it. Okay, well, what do I don't want to do with these type of files as they're coming through? What do I want to do with these kind of network traffic when it's coming through? That's where the tunable part comes in. So you start to tune out the false positives and get back to just really good security again. Security service. So you can deploy a central security appliance inside the environment to offload scanning from your virtual machines to it, keeping the performance at a maximum and security at a maximum without impacting system resources.
So how does that work?
Okay, so let's go over here.
And I guess let me rephrase. Is that like one of my computers or servers, or is that a piece of hardware you provide us?
That is a secure virtual appliance. You see it right here. It's a Linux Ubuntu hardened virtual appliance that you put in your virtual environment. It's hypervisor agnostic. It could be VMware, it could be Azure, it can be KVM, it can be anything. We don't care. It's another OVA that goes up in the environment, and then you just point with policy to it to say, use this guy to scan, right? Basically, it looks like it's this. It's a Linux box just sitting there. It's a virtual appliance. This is running in my VMware works. Yeah, running my VMware Workstation 12 right now. This guy now, with policy, all of these systems in my Active Directory go to that virtual machine, because all of these are virtual machines. And you'll notice here, I've got, 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 or 4 machines plus my laptop, all being scanned by Bitdefender at the same time, all running a live version, doing my demonstration. You don't see any lag. Now, anything that's again, so that's the secure virtual appliance, right? So that's going to offload the scanning to itself, keeping the resources in your virtual environment moving forward.
By the way, it's an OVA because he's running VMware. It could be an XDH or whatever,
right.
Whatever, hypervisor agnostic. So we have it for Hyper-V, we have it for Zen Server, etc.
In the firewall, we can set up roaming rules, right? So are you in the office? You want a public Wi-Fi? You want a trusted network? So, depending on where you are, we're going to allow you to do the rules appropriate for that once you leave the organization. So, maybe inside the organization, your firewall rules are trimmed down a little bit, but once you go to Panera and connect to their Wi-Fi, you don't trust them. You want to turn it back up. Under content control, we're looking at scanning incoming and outgoing emails, not, so over POP3 and SMTP. So even if you're not using Exchange server and you're popping down your email from Gmail or Yahoo or whatever and using an SMTP server out, we want to make sure it's good both in and out. We can scan SSL. We can add a search advisor, which will give a red, green, or yellow dot next to something on Google or Yahoo that you went searching for. We could put a toolbar browser inside the browser. So what it will do is up here, you see a little pop down that says this is a safe website or bad. We do have the web access content control, right? So if you want to start filtering by categories, you can, allow, etc. For example, we have blocking social networks, right? So if you want to block social networks, but maybe you have your own Facebook page, you can do facebook.com/mycompany. So your marketing and your sales team can still get to your own page while the entire category is blocked. So social networking isn't where we're going to spend their entire day. And you can do that with all these other categories as well. You can schedule time. So if you don't care that people do that during their lunch hour, schedule every hour during the day that they can't get to those sites, but during their lunch, fine, go play Candy Crush or whatever. Data protection. So we're going to allow you to do some DLP here as well, right? So if you don't want bank account, credit card, social security numbers, etc., going outside of your network, we're going to allow you to prevent that. Not only prevent that, but anything you're doing here is going to show up in your dashboard, and as well, you can have alerts set up to alert based on what's going out. If I set up an IDS or a data protection event, I can then have it sent to myself, emailed to myself, and okay. Now I'll get an email anytime that there's a data protection event going up. Application control. We do not do whitelisting. Our 500 plus users around the world through our own installs and our OEM relationships allow us to have the best knowledge of what's good and bad in the industry. So, just because everything's a good application doesn't mean you want it running on the network. So if you don't want someone using a particular instant messenger or a torrent or sharing applications, you can block them so that they can't, you install it, but you're never able to use it. Device control. If you still got some floppy drives around, we can stop them from connecting. But most people use this for external storage, right? So I want to block all USB storage. But wait a minute, I have my own that I actually hand out to my sales and my marketing team, and I've got these old USB fobs that still use user credentials. Let me allow only the ones that I want to pick from this list to connect to, but block all other external drives.
And I saw in there that you had the ability to choose devices that have already been detected.
Correct. So in the exclusions, once you plug something in, It will show up in this list, and you can pick it from this here. It would show up if I had any, and then you can set the exclusion of allowed or blocked on it, right? And you can see when it was last connected, et cetera. But you can search by when it was last connected, et cetera. So we will discover those devices as well. And if you don't want to create it by hand, you can do it by the ones that were automatically detected. Exchange, if you have any on-premise Exchange, we can put some rules in place for on-premise Exchange. We can do content filtering. We can do trusted extenders, et cetera. We can take action on anti-malware that we find coming in through email. Same with anti-spam, so we can create our own. What are we gonna? How are we gonna tag it? We're gonna move it to an account, save it to a disk, or delete it, as well as what is. I can add my RBL for my blacklist, etc. My whitelist. I thought in here. Hold on. Yeah. So you can actually change the email footer, body, etc. Any way you want it to look when it lands with the recipient. Encryption, as I mentioned earlier, it is on Windows, it's BitLocker. On Mac, it is, it's File Vault. And what we're doing here, for example, on the BitLocker side is, it's probably going to do an update. Sorry about that. If I'm logging into my computer and I have a password challenge at the BitLocker pre-OS screen and I forget it, I can get the recovery ID and I can call my IT admin, provide the recovery ID. He can log in with his own password, his or her own password, and reveal a new key so that when I get back to the login, yeah, it's still doing update. Never mind. When I get back to the login, I can provide that recovery key that the administrator just gave me and continue to log in from there. Let's see, what else do we got there? That's pretty much it. We got a bunch of reports that are built in. For any of the modules that we have, you can have that show up in a report. You can schedule the reports. You can email them once a week, once a day, once a month, whatever. And you can include just the different tree that you want or the whole hierarchy. In the dashboard is actually 9 pages of 4 portlets each. So again, any module that we have built in, when you log into your dashboard, that information will be right there at your fingertips, so you don't have to go looking for it, as well as a notification panel over here, so that when tasks are happening, etc., you'll be able to see what's going on. As speaking of tasks, we do keep a verbose login here for tasks that are running. So you can see here, if I was installing the client and it failed, I would know why. Well, there's no connectivity with this machine. So chances are it's either offline, it's behind a firewall that wasn't opened up for me to get through it, etc. But we tell you why something failed when it fails. All right. Any more questions?
The only other thing I'd love to see is, I'm sure you've heard this before. MSP reaches out to support, freaking out because they've got clients complaining that as soon as they installed the antivirus software that they provide with their stack, the computer slows down. Mm-hmm. So is there like a best practice policy setup that you recommend for, I'm going to say, most MSPs? Obviously, they'll need to customize some things, but what's going to give us protection without making the computer just suck?
Understood. So as I mentioned, I'm doing this presentation from my laptop. My laptop has a Bitdefender installed, antivirus running on it right now that I cannot control, right? So there's my protection, your system is safe, etc. Inside here, I've got 4 virtual machines that are running, and they're all running Bitdefender on them as well. You don't see any lag with anything that I'm doing. It is custom built for performance. For example, when we look at adding a new package, right? We get down to, first and foremost, on a file server, we only install anti-malware and the process monitor called Advanced Threat Control. So you'll never have these other modules interfering with performance over there. But even if you did, when you get down to our scanning mode, first thing we're doing is by default, we're looking into a hybrid scan, right? So what that basically means is take any available resources, use only the available resources on the local machine. But if it's busy already, ask the cloud for help, right? If it's a virtual machine, and if I was pointing to my secure virtual appliance, a third option would be in here for a central scan. So I would have hybrid scan, I would have local scan, I would have central scan. We're cognizant of the performance and the resources available on that machine long before you start installing, long before you start scanning and doing updates. And that's how this whole scan mode, custom automatic, et cetera, comes into play. We're not going to deplete your resources. We're going to ask other places for help to continue scanning. And with a relay in place, right? So for updates, a relay can be the central location for all your relays. So for all your updates, for policy updates, for product updates, signature updates. So not every system is going to reach out through the internet to go and get updates. They'll reach back internal to the network. So we're keeping down your bandwidth utilization there as well. So all this stuff is built in, and for example, this one package will know if it's this package, when you download it, will going to allow you to pick Windows, Linux, or Mac. Once you start to deploy it, it knows if it's a workstation, it knows if it's a file server, it knows if it's physical, it knows if it's virtual. It's already built in awareness of what we're going to use for resource consumption. And again, I can't stress enough how many versions of Bitdefender are running right now while I'm doing this demo. Whew.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. So we don't have to worry about it.
No.
So we just need to go through, if we've got clients that have, let's call it older hardware, because companies are cheap sometimes. We should consider choosing the hybrid scan.
Absolutely, and what that is going to do is it's going to recognize that there's not a lot of resources available, so it's going to ask our cloud to help scan. But if you've got regulations stating let's keep everything internal, turn off the hybrid scan, use the local scan, there are some algorithms built in to slow itself down so it doesn't use all resources.
Excellent. Well, this has been truly phenomenal.
So let's start from the top of the questions. Cliff, yes, there are scheduled reports. Greg,
thank you.
I just talked about how we can minimize how it would slow down the workstations. Andy, how do we check category of a website? That's a good question. We have our labs building in the categories right now, but if there's something that's miscategorized that you either want to add to us to try and add it to good or bad, we have the labs that you can email and say, hey, listen, this is something I need to get to, and you guys are blocking it. We can either add a policy exception for the web filtering, or if it's something that everybody should have, we could probably add it to the signatures and et cetera, and push it out for everybody. But I don't think you can actually check the category of the website without having us block it first, and then in the event itself in our dashboard, it might list which category blocked it. Okay, so Lonnie, what is the size of the endpoint software footprint? That's about 500 megabytes installed. But you'll notice here, let me bring this up. Bitdefender, again, it's doing its thing, right? It's scanning right now, by the way, and it's only using that much.
That's incredible.
City console is and my system is completely usable, right? Let's see.
And now what kind of system do you have, though? I mean, are we talking about a Xeon with 100 gigs of RAM, or is this an i3 or an i5?
It's a Dell with a 40 gig of RAM.
Okay, so it's got a lot of RAM.
Yeah, exactly. So what is the size of the endpoint software footprint? Different. Okay, so when you're installing it, that's different, right? So it's a 500 megabyte install. But if you grab the kit, it's like a 5 megabyte versus a 500 megabyte, the Windows installer, et cetera, the Linux downloader, because that then contains the hooks to add the additional modules during the installation, or you can just download it once and push it out. If you're doing scripting, my suggestion would be use the Windows downloader because use the Windows kit, because the name of it is 8 letters versus 72, right? So that's just an easier way. It's going to be a bigger download, but it's going to cut back on what you need to script. Andy, category for website filtering. Yes, same thing. So once we block it, if you're blocking a particular category, if you click on the event in the dashboard under the website filtering, it will bring you into some information about it. And then in here, it would probably tell you which category. It will tell you which category it was that blocked it. All right, Sean, do you have ways of not having alerts on the end user side? Yes, absolutely. There's a huge call for that. So inside our policy, under notifications, just put it in silent mode. If you don't want to put it in silent mode completely, you can get pretty granular on which modules and whether it's a warning or critical, right? So if it's a warning, don't show it, but if it's critical, show it. So we have different ways of configuring what the end user is going to see at the endpoint. And then Greg, how much of this works on a Mac endpoint? On the Mac, we're going to have antivirus, anti-malware, on-access scanning, on-demand scanning. Al, do you know what else is available on the Mac?
I think basically it's the scanning, Paul. It's there.
Right.
And ransomware, malware, virus.
Right. So
they're not yet available there. We're planning to work on adding content filtering. That's been a request, I should say. But
that's where I was going to go. Yeah. So that's something that I know we have on the roadmap. I don't have an ETA when the content controlling, device control, and stuff like that is going to make it. But this particular tab here, anti-malware, and all these settings here, they're going to be there for you right now.
Right.
And you can deploy it remotely from here, etc. Oh, and the encryption, because we do file vault on the Macs. All right.
So I just sent out a little poll. I would love if you guys could just answer. It's 2 questions. How many endpoints do you manage? And how many endpoints do you have AV installed on? And I did it that way because even though I don't think it should be, that answer could be different. And as I kind of expected, most everyone is in that 100 to 499. We have a few 1 to 99s. We got one guy that's in the 1,000 to 5,000. And so far, we don't have anyone that's 500 to 999. So interesting. And almost all of you voted. So thank you. I appreciate that, guys. Well, this has been my brain hurts because you guys got me all this great information, and so I just kind of want to recap.
All right.
We learned that your software is one of the best rated antivirus products out there. We learned that pricing is as high as $1.75 and goes down pretty quickly once you hit even just 100 devices. Let's see. It is able to do just about everything with that existing license, except for SVE, encryption, and what else am I forgetting? Exchange.
Yes. So the additional line items are the security for virtualized appliances, which is the hardened Linux virtual machine that scans, the full disk encryption, which is for BitLocker and Mac, the exchange protection, and I can't remember, Al, is sandboxing going to be a for cost when that comes out under Ultra, when we integrate that?
That will be an upsell product that our clients are going to be able to offer. It is not to be included in the standard product.
Okay.
Okay.
So sandboxing,
Lonnie,
once that's available, it won't be there. Two more questions. Lonnie wants to know, aren't you using the server and not an endpoint?
No, I'm running this on my laptop. All of those virtual machines are on the same laptop. Everything I'm doing is from my laptop.
Gotcha.
And then,
again,
Jared, do you have a? Go ahead.
I was going to say, Paul, sorry, but again, the management console is hosted in our cloud, so he's accessed the cloud. But yes, he's running it all from his laptop.
Right. My point being, there's 4 versions of Bitdefender scanning on this laptop right now. 1 on my primary machine and 3 in my virtual machines. Yes, I'm connected to the cloud for management, but everything else is being done locally. All right, perfect. Jared, do you have a browser plugin like WebRoot? Yeah. So I guess if you define the browser plugin, right? So what we will do is put a little toolbar in there that comes down off the top of the browser that says this is a safe site marked by Bitdefender. If a category blocks a website, you'll also see a toolbar that pops down if you point to it that says this has been blocked by Bitdefender with some other verbiage like talk to your admin to find out why. We also have the safe search integration. So if I go to Google or Yahoo or Bing or whatever and do a search term, and it will come back with red, yellow, or green for, don't go there, take caution, or great, go right ahead, built in, so that, again, it depends on what you mean by plugin for WebRoot. We have 2 different ways, plugin for browsers like WebRoot. We have 2 different ways we can display good or bad. One for the actual website and one for the searches.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this, guys. This has been this has just been incredible. I love having vendors on that are going to actually educate us about the product and not just give us, the sales shtick, and
I told you at the beginning, I don't like marketing slides.
Yeah. And I appreciate it. This was great. So, for everyone that's still here, still watching, if there's anything you missed, you can go to youtube.com/MSP webinars and you can watch this anytime. It should be available in the next hour or 2. YouTube, it waits until the webinar's done and then it re-encodes everything. Pricing, we went over. For people that are members of MSP webinars, there is a deal. I spoke with Al privately and we got something approved. So I'll kind of let you guys know about that offline. And yeah, I think that kind of covers everything.
That's great. Be nice to me on YouTube, everybody. I'm sensitive.
Paul, you did great, man. You did fantastic.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Anytime I can help, I'm always happy to.
Well, very good. Well, thanks so much for attending, everyone. Thanks so much, Paul and Al, for taking time to do this. And you all have a wonderful day.